She asks you a simple question. You answer it. She smiles. Then she walks away forever. What just happened? You missed it? The signal, the invitation, the door that was standing wide open right in front of you. And here is the truth that no one wants to tell you. It was not rejection. She was not being polite. She was hitting on you, but you did not know the language she was speaking. So you responded in facts when she needed feelings. You gave information when she wanted connection. Carl Jung spent 50 years studying how humans communicate. He discovered something that changes everything. We speak two languages at once. The surface language uses words and facts. The deep language uses feelings and symbols. Most people only hear the surface. They miss the depths entirely. And in those depths is where attraction lives. When a woman over 40 hits on a man, she does not do it like she does not giggle and touch your arm. She does not make it obvious. She has been hurt before. She values herself too much to risk direct rejection. So she tests you. She asks questions that sound innocent but carry weight underneath, and 97% of men over 40 completely miss it. I am going to show you the one question that matters most. The question that separates the men who create connection from the men who die alone, wondering why no one ever wanted them. This is not theory. This is pattern recognition. And once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. But first, you need to understand something about female psychology that most men get completely wrong. Robert Greene wrote that power belongs to those who understand what is not being said. The visible world is just the surface. Beneath every conversation runs a river of hidden meaning. Women navigate that river naturally. They were raised to read emotions, to sense mood shifts, to detect what people really mean beneath their words. Men were raised differently. We were taught to solve problems, to fix things, to deal in facts. So when a woman asks us a question, we hear the words and answer the words. We do not hear what she is really asking. And that disconnect kills attraction before it even starts. Here is what you must understand. When a mature woman is interested in you, she will not tell you directly. Instead, she will create opportunities for you to show her who you are. She will ask questions that sound casual but are actually tests, and your answer tells her everything she needs to know. Jung called this active imagination. The conscious mind asks one question. The unconscious mind asks another. A woman says, "What do you do for fun?" Her conscious mind wants to know your hobbies. But her unconscious mind is asking, "Are you alive? Do you have passion? Is there room in your life for me?" Most men answer the surface question. They list activities, golf, watching sports, working on the car. These answers are not wrong, but they are dead. They communicate nothing about who you are beneath the routine. The man who understands Jung answers the deeper question. He does not list activities. He reveals aliveness. He might say, "I chase things that make me curious. Last month, it was learning to make pasta from scratch. I failed beautifully 3 times before I got it right. See the difference?" Same question. Completely different answer. One answer closes doors. The other opens them Nietzsche taught that most people are asleep in their own lives. They go through motions without presence. They exist without living. When a woman asks you about yourself, she is checking whether you are awake or asleep. The asleep man recites his routine. The awake man shares his aliveness. Now let me tell you about the one question that 97% of men completely miss. It sounds so innocent that you would never suspect it carries the weight of everything, but once I explain it, you will start hearing it everywhere. And when you hear it, you will know exactly what is actually being asked. The question is this: what made you smile today? That is it. 5 simple words. Sounds like small talk, right? Wrong. This is one of the most sophisticated tests a woman can give. And here is why. Sigmund Freud discovered that human beings defend against vulnerability. We build walls around our inner world to protect ourselves from judgment and rejection. These walls become automatic. We do not even know we are hiding anymore. We just present the version of ourselves we think others want to see. When a woman asks, "What made you smile today?" she is asking you to lower those walls. She wants access to your inner world. She wants to know what touches you, what delights you, what breaks through your daily armor and makes you feel something real. Most men completely miss this. They answer with something generic. "Oh, nothing much. Just a regular day." Or they make a joke to deflect. "My bank account after payday." These answers are defense mechanisms. They keep the walls up. They communicate, "I do not trust you enough to let you see inside." And the moment you do that, her interest dies. Not because you are a bad person, but because she just learned that you are emotionally unavailable. She asks for access. You denied it. The door closes. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that we can only truly connect with others when we drop our masks and reveal our authentic selves. The mask feels safe, but it prevents intimacy. When she asks, "What made you smile?" she is inviting you to remove the mask just for a moment. Just enough to let her see the real you. The man who understands this answers completely differently. He pauses. He actually thinks about the question. Then he shares something genuine. Something small, but true. "You know what? I saw an old man teaching his grandson to tie his shoes this morning. The kid kept messing it up, and the grandfather just kept showing him patient as anything. It reminded me that good things take time. Do you see what just happened?" That answer revealed character. It showed that you notice beauty in ordinary moments. It demonstrated patience and values. It gave her a window into your soul. And that window is what she was asking for. Let me go deeper into why this question matters so much. Carl Jung believes that every human being wears a persona. This is the mask we show to the world. The professional version, the polite version, the version that gets through the day without conflict. But beneath the persona lives the shadow, the real self, the part that feels and wants and fears and hopes. True intimacy happens when two people can see past each other's personas and connect at the shadow level. That is where real attraction lives. Not in the polished surface, but in the authentic depths. When a woman asks, "What made you smile today?" she is testing whether you can drop your persona long enough to reveal your shadow, not the dark parts, the real parts, the human parts that feel things and notice things and care about things. I knew a man named Richard, 62 years old, successful businessman, divorced for 8 years. He met a woman at a charity event. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing important, weather, traffic, the usual script people read when they first meet. Then she asked him, "What made you smile today?" Richard almost gave the automatic answer, almost said nothing much and moved on. But something made him pause. He looked at her and realized she was actually listening, not just waiting for her turn to talk, actually listening. So he told her the truth. "I have this neighbor. Must be 90 years old. Every morning he waters his roses like they are his children. Today one of them bloomed. First one this season. He called me over to see it like he had just witnessed a miracle. And you know what? Looking at his face, it kind of was the woman's entire energy changed. She leaned in. Her eyes got softer. She said, "That is beautiful. Most people would not even notice something like that." Richard shrugged. "I think we stop noticing things when we stop having time for them. I am trying to have more time." They talked for 2 more hours. She gave him her number without him asking. 3 months later, they were inseparable. What happened there? Richard passed a test he did not know he was taking. He revealed that he was present in his own life, that he noticed beauty, that he valued simple moments over grand gestures, and all of that came through in one honest answer to one simple question. Now let me show you the psychology of why this works. Robert Greene teaches that seduction is not about tricks. It is about creating an emotional experience. When you make someone feel something real, you become memorable. When you stay surface level, you become forgettable. Genetic answers create no emotional experience. They are flat. They require no vulnerability. They reveal nothing. The woman hears them and thinks, this man is not willing to let me in. He is either boring or defended. Either way, this goes nowhere. But a genuine answer creates an emotional moment. It makes her feel something. Warmth, curiosity, connection. She thinks this man is different. He actually pays attention to life. He has depth. I want to know more. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. The man who notices roses blooming thinks different thoughts than the man who notices nothing. And that difference shows up in everything. How he speaks, how he listens, how he makes people feel. When you answer what made you smile today with something genuine, you are not just answering a question, you are demonstrating the quality of your inner life. You are showing her that you are awake, present, alive. Let me give you more examples of how to answer this question correctly. She asks, "What made you smile today?" Bad answer. Nothing, really. Just another Tuesday. This communicates emptiness. It tells her your days are all the same, that nothing touches you, that life is happening to you instead of through you. Better answer. My daughter sent me a photo of her dog wearing sunglasses. Completely random. Made me laugh out loud in the middle of a meeting. This reveals relationship, humor, that you are connected to people who bring you joy, that you can find lightness in ordinary moments. Another example, bad answer. I do not know. I guess my coffee was good this morning. This is not terrible, but it is lazy. It shows you did not really think about the question. You just grabbed the first thing that came to mind. Better answer. I take the same route to work every day. This morning I noticed a tree I have driven past 1,000 times. It was covered in these tiny white flowers. Made me realize I have been sleepwalking past beauty for months. This shows self-awareness, growth, the ability to notice and adjust. These are all attractive qualities that came through in one simple answer. Here is what you need to understand. The content of your answer matters less than the authenticity of it. She is not judging whether you smiled at the right things. She is measuring whether you are willing to be real with her. Epictetus taught that we do not control what happens to us. We only control how we respond. When a woman asks, "What made you smile?" You do not control what actually made you smile that day, but you absolutely control whether you share it honestly or hide behind generic safety. Most men hide. They have been taught that vulnerability is weakness, that real men do not talk about flowers or dogs or moments that touched them. So they give tough answers, sarcastic answers, defended answers, and they wonder why women lose interest. Jordan Peterson talks about the integration of masculine and feminine energies within each person. The healthy man can be strong and soft, powerful and tender. He does not have to choose between competence and compassion. He holds both. When you answer this question with genuine warmth, you demonstrate integration. You show her that you are strong enough to be soft, confident enough to be vulnerable, masculine enough to access your feelings without shame. This is what mature women find irresistible, not the performance of strength, the reality of integration. Now, let me show you what happens when you get this wrong. Because understanding failure teaches as much as understanding success. I watched a man destroy a perfect opportunity last year. His name was Tom, 58 years old, fit, successful, good conversationalist. He met a woman named Claire at a bookstore. They both reached for the same book on Italian cooking. Classic meet-cute moment. They talked for 15 minutes. The chemistry was obvious. She was laughing, leaning in, asking questions. Then she asked it, "So what made you smile today before you came here?" Tom froze for just a second. Then he said, "Honestly, I have been pretty stressed with work. Nothing has really made me smile in a while." Claire's face changed, not dramatically, just a small shift. The light in her eyes dimmed slightly. She nodded, said something polite about work being hard, and within 3 minutes, she had excused herself. Tom told me about it later. He was confused. He thought they were connecting. He could not understand what went wrong. Here is what went wrong. Tom failed the vulnerability test, but he failed it in the worst possible way. He was vulnerable about the wrong thing. Sigmund Freud distinguished between productive vulnerability and destructive vulnerability. Productive vulnerability reveals your capacity for joy, connection, and depth. Destructive vulnerability dumps pain, stress, and burden onto someone who has not agreed to carry it. When Tom said nothing had made him smile, he was being honest, but he was sharing destructive vulnerability with someone he just met. He communicated several things in that one answer. First, that his life is heavy right now. Second, that work controls his emotional state. Third, that he has no access to simple joys even when stressed. Claire heard all of that, and her unconscious mind made a calculation. This man is drowning. If I get involved, I will be asked to save him. I do not want a project. I want a partner. She was not being cold. She was being smart. Carl Jung wrote about the wounded healer archetype, the person who has been through pain and transformed it into wisdom. The wounded healer is attractive because they have processed their pain. They are not bleeding on people who did not cut them, but Tom was still bleeding, still raw, and he made Claire responsible for that wound 30 seconds after meeting her. Contrast this with Richard from earlier. Richard also had pain in his past, a divorce, loneliness, hard years. But when asked what made him smile, he did not dump that pain. He shared a moment of beauty. He showed that despite his history, he still had access to joy. That is the difference between the wounded healer and the open wound. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I should be honest. If nothing made me smile, should I lie? No, you should not lie. But you need to understand what the question is really asking. She is not asking for a complete emotional inventory of your day. She is asking whether you have the capacity for joy, whether life can still touch you, whether you notice moments worth noticing. If you genuinely cannot remember a single thing that made you smile today, that is a bigger problem than dating. That means you are disconnected from your own experience, and you need to fix that before you try to connect with someone else. But most men can remember something if they actually pause and think: a good cup of coffee, a lyric from a song, a memory that surfaced, a stranger who smiled at them. These are all legitimate answers if shared genuinely. The key is not what made you smile. The key is that you are present enough to notice and willing enough to share. Let me give you another real example of getting this right under difficult circumstances. I know a man named Frank, 65 years old. His wife died 2 years ago. He was devastated. Spent a year barely functioning, started going to grief group meetings, slowly came back to life. At one of these meetings, he met a woman named Susan, also widowed, also rebuilding. After several group sessions, they went for coffee. Susan asked him, "What made you smile today?" Frank could have gone dark. He could have said, "Nothing really smiles for me anymore." That would have been honest in one sense, but it would have been destructive vulnerability. Instead, Frank paused. He thought about it. Then he said, "I heard a song on the radio this morning that my wife used to sing off-key in the shower. It hurt for a second, but then I smiled because I can still hear her voice. The memory is sharper than the pain now. That feels like progress." Susan's eyes filled with tears. She reached across the table and touched his hand. She said, "That is the most hopeful thing I have heard in months." They have been together ever since. What did Frank do, right? He was honest about his pain, but he framed it through growth. He showed that he was processing grief, not drowning in it. He demonstrated that he could still find beauty in painful memories. He revealed depth without dumping burden. That is mastery. Arthur Schopenhauer taught that suffering is universal, but meaning is personal. We all suffer. The question is whether we transform that suffering into wisdom or let it transform us into bitter. When you answer what made you smile today, you are revealing which path you have chosen. The bitter man has no smiles to share. The wise man finds them even in darkness. Now let me show you the advanced level of this question, because sometimes she asks it in different forms. Instead of "What made you smile today?" she might ask, "What is something good that happened to you recently? What are you looking forward to? What surprised you this week?" These are all variations of the same test. They are all checking whether you have access to positive emotion, whether you can articulate joy, whether life is happening for you or to you. The man who understands this hears the real question beneath the words, and he answers from that deeper place. Now I want to teach you something that will change how you hear every conversation for the rest of your life. Nietzsche wrote that there are no facts, only interpretations. When a woman speaks to you, the words she uses are just the surface. The real communication happens in tone, context, energy, and intent. Learning to hear what is beneath the words is the most valuable skill you can develop, not just for dating, for all of human connection. When she asks, "What made you smile today?" here is how to know she is hitting on you versus just making conversation. First, watch her body language. Is she facing you fully? Are her feet pointed towards you? Is she leaning in slightly? These are unconscious signals of interest. If she is asking while looking at her phone or turned away, it is just politeness. Second, notice the timing. Did she ask this question after you have been talking for a while? Or did she ask it immediately? If it comes after some rapport has built, it is a test. If it comes in the first 30 seconds, it is just an opening line. Third, listen to her tone. Is there warmth in it, curiosity, or is it flat and automatic? The interested woman asks with genuine curiosity. The polite woman asks out of social script. Fourth, pay attention to what happens after you answer. Does she ask follow-up questions? Does she share something similar about herself? Or does she just say nice and move on? If she is truly interested, your answer will spark more conversation. She will use what you shared as a bridge to deeper topics. This is called responsiveness, and it is one of the clearest signs of attraction. Carl Jung called this synchronicity. When two people are genuinely connecting, the conversation flows naturally. Topics emerge organically. Neither person has to force it. The universe seems to conspire to keep you talking. But when interest is one-sided or absent, everything feels effortful. Awkward silences appear. Topics die quickly. You feel like you are pushing a boulder uphill. Here is a real example of recognizing the difference. Martin, 60 years old, was at a gallery opening. A woman approached him while he was looking at a painting. She said, "What made you smile today?" Martin noticed several things. She had walked across the room to stand next to him specifically. She was facing him fully. Her tone was warm. Her eyes held contact. He recognized the signal, so he answered genuinely. I watched a kid try to pet a cat that wanted nothing to do with him. The kid was so determined. The cat was so indifferent. It was like watching the universe explain dating. She laughed. Really laughed. Then she said, "That is perfect. I saw two pigeons fighting over a French fry this morning like it was the last meal on earth. We should compare notes on the comedy of everyday life." Notice what happened. She did not just acknowledge his answer. She matched it. She offered her own observation at the same depth. She created symmetry. This is what Jung called reciprocal vulnerability. Both people revealing themselves at the same pace. This is very different from polite conversation where one person shares and the other just nods. Martin and this woman talked for 2 hours, exchanged numbers, started dating, all because he recognized what was actually being asked and responded appropriately. Now, let me address something important. Some of you are thinking, this seems like a lot of analysis for one simple question. Can I not just be myself? Yes, you absolutely can and should be yourself. But here's what most men do not understand. Being yourself only works if yourself is developed enough to be worth being. Robert Greene wrote that we must become the person we want to attract. If you want to attract a conscious, present, emotionally available woman, you must become conscious, present, and emotionally available yourself. This is not manipulation. This is growth. When you learn to answer what made you smile today with genuine depth, you are not performing. You are developing the capacity to notice your own life and articulate your own experience. That makes you a better human being, not just a better dater. Plato taught that the unexamined life is not worth living. When you pause to think about what made you smile, you are examining your life. You are bringing consciousness to your experience. You are waking up. This is why this question is so powerful. It forces presence, and presence is the foundation of all attraction. Here is the practice I want you to do starting today. Every evening before bed, ask yourself, what made me smile today? Do not skip this. Actually, pause and think about it. Maybe write it down. Some days the answer will be big. Some days it will be tiny. But there is always something if you look. A good coffee, a kind word from a stranger, a memory, a realization, a moment of beauty you almost miss. The more you practice noticing these moments, the more natural it becomes to share them when asked. And the more you share them, the more attractive you become. Not because you are using a technique, but because you are becoming genuinely present in your own existence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Start thinking high-quality thoughts by noticing high-quality moments. When you do this for 30 days, something changes. You start seeing the world differently. You notice more, feel more, experience more, and that richness shows up in how you speak, how you listen, how you connect. Women sense this immediately. They can tell the difference between a man who is awake and a man who is sleepwalking. The sleepwalking man has nothing to share because he notices nothing. The awake man has endless things to share because he sees everything. This is the real secret beneath the question. It is not about having the right answer. It is about becoming the kind of man who has real answers because he lives a real life. Thomas Hobbes said life is nasty, brutish, and short. But he was wrong. Life is beautiful, surprising, and rich with meaning. If you pay attention, the man who pays attention becomes magnetic. Not through effort, but through presence. Let me tell you one final story, and then I will give you the framework that ties everything together. James, 67 years old, retired teacher, spent most of his life in his head, analyzing everything, connecting with no one. After his retirement, he felt invisible. Women looked through him like he was furniture. Then he started the practice I just described. Every night, he wrote down what made him smile. First week, His answers were pathetic. My coffee was hot. I found a parking spot. Surface level nonsense, but he kept going. Week 2, the answers got slightly better. I saw a dog jump into a fountain. A student from 20 years ago recognized me and said I changed her life. By week 4, James was noticing things he had ignored for decades. The way light hit buildings at sunset, how strangers helped each other without being asked, the small heroisms of ordinary people living ordinary lives. One afternoon, James was at a farmer's market. A woman standing next to him was smelling candles. She turned to him and asked, "What made you smile today?" 6 months earlier, James would have shrugged and said nothing much, but now he had an answer. A real one. I watched a father teach his son to shake hands properly. The kid must have been 5 years old. Serious little face, trying so hard to get it right. Made me think about all the small ways we pass things down without even realizing it. The woman set down the candle. She looked at James like she was seeing him for the first time. She said, "That is beautiful." Most people do not notice things like that anymore. James smiled. I am learning to notice again. Turns out I missed a lot. They talked until the market closed. She asked for his number. They have been inseparable for 8 months now. What changed? Not James's age. Not his appearance. Not his circumstances. What changed was his presence, his capacity to see his own life and articulate his own experience. That is the power of this one simple question. It separates the men who are present from the men who are absent, and women always choose presence. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most men experience loneliness and rejection as fate. Bad luck. Wrong timing. They never realize the real problem is unconsciousness. But you now know better. You now understand that when a woman asks, "What made you smile today?" she is asking whether you are conscious, whether you are alive, whether connecting with you would mean connecting with someone who experiences life or sleepwalks through it. Answer that question well, and everything changes. This is the woman's rule book, the hidden language of female attraction written in questions that sound innocent but test everything that matters. 97% of men over 40 miss this completely. They answer with facts when feelings are required. They share surface when depth is requested. They perform when presence is needed. But you are no longer in that 97%. You now see what they miss. You hear what they ignore. You understand what she is really asking when the words sound simple. Use this knowledge wisely. Do not use it to manipulate. Use it to connect genuinely. Use it to show up as the man you are capable of being: present, conscious, alive. The women who ask this question are not playing games. They are taking risks. They are extending invitations disguised as questions because direct rejection is too painful to risk. When you recognize the invitation and respond appropriately, you honor her courage. You match her vulnerability. You create the connection you both want. That is not manipulation. That is consciousness, meeting consciousness. That is two people seeing each other clearly and choosing to step closer. Start practicing today. Notice what makes you smile. Articulate what you notice. Share what you articulate. And watch how the world responds when you show up fully present in your own existence. Subscribe to the Woman's Rulebook for more insights into the hidden psychology of attraction. Hit the notification bell because next week I am revealing the one phrase that makes a woman think about you for days after you leave. You will not want to miss it? Until then, pay attention. The questions have already started and now you know how to answer them.